Hello and welcome to first episode of the Reddit Dominions Enhanced tournament. Uh, this is the finals. We've gone through 9 qualifier games, and we're here with our 9 player finalists. Uh, I'm Torsion, your host for this series, and joined by Nonetheless, our
Oh,
co-host.
hello there.
How's it going?
Good. How about you?
Doing well. So it's been a long time coming. Qualifiers took a little bit longer than some expected, but we're finally here and interesting participant list in the finals. A few what I would call favorites, a few dark horses, and a few unknowns from a community perspective. Um, we'll do a quick run through the player list. We've got on uh, Nabah, Master Claude. On Man, we have Ibis. On Vanheim, we have Dan. On Banderlog, the Grand Wombat. On Shambhala, Last. Agartha, Holiday. Uh, Goplin is on Ind. Jamoden is on Sitis. And Voltaire on Ulm. Uh, Nonetheless, right off the bat, who is your favorite to win this one?
Well, I don't think I make any secret of who my favorite is to win this one. I think Jamadon is my favorite to win this game. Jamadon has only ever lost one game of Dominions his entire life, and it was to me. So I have a reputation to maintain.
That is quite the streak. And then outside that, from this player list, who do you have the most experience playing with?
I think I've played quite a lot with Man. I've played a lot with Last. I've played a lot with Ibis. Trying to think. Yeah, and then Jamadon. I don't think I have experience with any of these other players. No.
Yeah, I would say Gemidon was before my time, but Last and Ibis
Yeah.
are stalwarts in the community, if you will. Well-known players, respected for their abilities.
Yeah.
And then,
D- Definitely, I would say more. At least in my experience, they tend to be more late game players. They're not going to rush you down with stuff. They're mages and items and thugs and stuff like that, rather than Jamadon, who comes out of the gate swinging.
yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned coming out of the gate swinging because our Ind player is infamous for his use of Hell Blesses. Goplin, he won his tournament qualifier in, I believe, under 35 turns. It was the quickest qualifier. He took a Hell Bless on Eru and just stunned everyone with a Blitz Throne Rush. Um, it's going to be
Yep.
interesting to see him on in this game. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, Eru is kind of uniquely suited to be a Blessed Rose Nation. It has the fastest units in the game by map move. Ind is not someone you traditionally think of as a Blessed Rush Nation, though I don't think anyone really. There doesn't appear to be a lot of consensus in the community on what to do with Ind, right? Um, they, they're a nation with a lot of different things. None of the things are like amazing, but they're very interesting and unique. And just also being a newish nation, um, certainly every single soldier being blessed and their ability to produce like sort of more sacred units than other nations would mean that maybe you can do a bless with them. Then again, of course, they are just basically humans.
Is this
So
the famous torsion?
And we're back after that little disruption. So we were talking Ind, as you mentioned, not known as a thug nation. Goplin obviously is well known in the community for his love of all things thug and super combatant.
yeah.
Um,
I think that maybe that mage you were just on, if you want to go back to that, this might be like their if you want to say Ind's thing, this I think is their thing. This is a excellent mage. Um, it's got research bonus. It's got fortune teller. It's got excellent paths. It can do a whole bunch of stuff in combat. It can drop rocks. It can do lava. It can do astral stuff. Right. So it can make good elementals. Um, but I think Gauntlet has chosen a different strategy for this game.
yep. And then from a Dominions Enhanced perspective, anything viewers should be aware of for Ind.
I'm afraid I don't think Dominions Enhanced really does anything to end, but I have to say I'm not an expert.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. So, I mean, in terms of these nations, really, it's Bandar Log and obviously Shambhala, the that where DE makes major changes.
Yeah, so let's jump into Bander, being piloted by Grand Wombat, um, a winner of one of the second round of qualifier matches. Um, I would say a lesser known quantity within the community. So a little bit of a dark horse coming into this one. Banderlog considered, I would say, a later game nation. They do have a recruit anywhere sacred in the white one, and then the Tiger Rider, which is considered a little bit overcosted and maybe understated uh, compared to other sacred cav within the era. Anything I'm
Um,
misrepresenting there?
well, I wouldn't say that Tiger Riders are undercosted. They're a very powerful unit. Their stats and their attack density is kind of second to none for the cost. Their major issue is they have an 11 magic resistance, and 10 HP. So you can just mind burn them to death, basically, right? It's very, very easy to use, especially in DE, the anti-sacred spells, very simple thaumaturgy stuff to kill them, while just putting chaff ahead. Um, so they kind of tend to fall off once magic starts showing up. However, Bandar does not have to deal with that in DE because they have a spell which allows them to recruit a much more powerful sacred, one with plenty of MR, is not an animal, um, excellent armor, excellent attacks, um, which they can normally only summon starting in the mid game.
Yep, and that spell that unlocks the ability to recruit those in their capital also gives them a conjuration bonus as well as additional S income. So
Right.
people within the community refer to it as Bander going Super Saiyan.
Yep, yep, and also a very good air mage.
Yeah, and then the backbone of the Monkey Nations is the Yogi. Um, Extremely cheap, extremely affordable S1 sacred. Um, so
Yep,
tremendous
good point
potential
on her.
there. And then we'll pivot over to the other Dominion's Enhanced nation, piloted by Last, um, known in the community as a late game player. Big fan of Calum. Took them to victory in a late age qualifier game, and he's also renowned for being one of the slower players in the community. So it'll be interesting to see if that has any diplomatic repercussions. I wouldn't
As
expect it to at this level, but interested in your thoughts on that.
and slower, just to be clear, we mean literally takes his turns last.
Yes.
Um, I think I think I think people are yeah, I don't want to comment on that right now. Um, certainly there's a lot to be said about Shambhala. It's really they have a very wide they have a lot of tools. Um, I would say the main thing is their mages are generally small. They're oh, except for that one, of course.
It's extremely
Um,
expensive mage here, the Hidden Master.
yes, but if you look at some of their smaller mages, yeah, see they generally just they follow a pattern. They've got two paths. They have they can lead troops sometimes. See they have the yeah, you can I don't know if you want to go through a few of them. Yeah, see they're not big mages. They're one or two paths, and they mostly are used to supplement the troops with point buffs and small support spells. They are not. This is not a nation where the mages are going to run the show, but they are very sneaky. A lot of the mages are sneaky. A lot of the troops are sneaky, as well as having good heavy infantry. But I don't think it would be a good use of our time to explain everything Shambhala can do right now. But let's just say they have a lot of small mages, a lot of point buffs, a lot of raiders, and
They
we can
do
look at the
also have the ability to break into blood, which is interesting. I think
very
out
good.
of
Yeah,
all the nations being played in the finals, Shamba's probably the one where the meta is least defined. I think people struggle with there's no community consensus around, is it scales, is it bless, is it a light
Yeah.
bless? So it'll be interesting to see what last does with them here.
Yeah, here I would say Bandar Log is a very set in stone. You always go rainbow. Agartha, you either go scales or some kind of attack bless. Satis is always scales. Ulm is always scales. Vamheim is always rainbow. Man is always scales. Naba can go a couple different ways. Um, but yeah, no, Shambhala, I mean, I don't know how to play them, certainly.
Let's dive into Naba. I know it's a
Sure.
nation you're quite familiar with, being piloted by Master Claude, a little bit of a dark horse, another one who's active within the Dominions community, but not super frequent player within the Reddit Dominions Discord. Um,
Sure.
what's your thoughts on Naba here?
I mean, it's a good nation. DE takes the stealth away from their camels, I believe, but you know, the ability to kind of go order and get camels, or to go production and get heavy infantry, and the ability to sort of change between, you can go sacreds, you can go mage blessed, you can go thugs. You have this the one of the best mages in the game in the Malika. Um, it's an interesting nation, right? I would say it's countered by you just take fire and shock resist, and that does shut down a lot of what they can do. Um, but it's a nation I think with a lot of skill expression, powerful raiders, um, interesting mages. Um, yeah,
Yeah, one thing I would say, for as good as the Malika is, um, the rest of the mages might be a little bit expensive for what they are.
yeah, not great.
Yeah.
The others, actually, the Hermit Sahir, if you look on the right, is very, very nice for what it is. Unfortunately, oh wait, did they take that off? Oh no, it's 50%. Okay, so it's a 50% random. That's a lot better. Unfortunately, it's 4 rec points and only recruitable outside of capital, so or outside of not in a fort. So it's you're not going to get very many.
Yep. And then, so we've touched on Ind, Shamba, um, Nabah, Bander. So that brings up Vanheim, piloted by Dan, one of our Australian contingent. Um, anything to say about Vanheim, or is it the elves that we know and love from Vanilla?
Yeah, I don't think DE really touches the elves at all. Um, I think they get some like late game summons or whatever for fun. And maybe a few of them get some like interesting like Fey spells. I want to say they get some like strength buff spells, I think. They may also get a they also get like a special do they have does this one have the death air mages? It does, right? It does, yeah. Yeah, they get a special Cloud Trapeze copy called Ride of the Valkyries um that adds some Valkyries to your Cloud Trapeze. It's pretty fun. But no, this is just EA light. You don't have Van Heers, but you do have Valkyries and Vans. Usually just go some bless, do some thugging, do some thunderstriking, standard stuff. It's not you don't have like the good mages that you have LA, so you're still kind of reliant on your just slightly less powerful sacreds in AMA.
And then moving over to Satis, typical Scales Nation, as you mentioned,
Yep.
played by your favorite in the tournament. Also can be taken with expanders, but either way, it's a strong nation. Um, one thing
Yep.
DE does change, I believe, is puts the 3 per turn cap on the Sobek Sacred Guard. Otherwise, you might see much bigger blesses taken on these guys.
Eh, well, I believe in the base game they're only one per game.
Oh, is
One
that
per
what it
turn.
is? Okay, so
I believe
opens
that's
it
how it
up a
works.
little bit.
Yeah. So the crazy thing with the Soba, well, this is a bit of an issue actually. I have is they're limited recruitment, and that means they actually cost no recruitment points. Um, so since you get 3 per turn, you can basically dump all the turmoil you want, and still get these and as many of the other sacreds as you want out of the capital. And these are the Sobek is an absolutely insane. The fact that it has, that halberd and the bite, with that much HP. You get attack blast, it'll repel everything. Has 21 protection at almost 40 HP. It mixes in with skeletons. This is just an awesome unit. And really, you can go anywhere you want with it in terms of less. I mean, except for don't buy defense points. That's not going to help you. Anything else, this thing is going to do well.
Yeah, and
And
then
obviously, Marshmaster is many people's pick for the best mage in the game.
yeah, it high research, so you can, if you want, dump to drain. They're a little bit expensive, but you get them everywhere. They have some
Yeah,
nice randoms.
yeah, 2 rack points is the really main thing here. On other nations, this nation would take 2 turns to make, but not in Citus.
Yep, just a powerhouse of a mage. The one thing to note about Dominion's Enhanced, though, it does move Foul Vapors from Enchant 5 to Enchant 6. Slight nerf to Satis, but I don't think it's anything significant.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And then on Agartha, we've got Holiday. You can see here, pretender name is Blue Cop. So it looks like he's leveraging some mentorship from Bluefire and Kurt Kopp, who are piloting Agartha in our Mortal Realms
I thought it
game.
was a reference. I thought it was a reference to the blue cap.
No, I
A
believe
item.
it's two mentors in the Dominions Enhanced community.
Well, a blue cap is an item which Agartha, sorry, as a summon which Agartha often takes because it gives extra resources.
Yep.
Um,
Any experience playing with Holiday?
I've never played with Holiday. I don't know if he's from Immersion. Um, I have played MA Agartha once. Couldn't really get my handle around it. The Sacreds are quite good, but I think the mage lineup leaves a little bit to be desired.
Yeah, Shard Guard, as you can see, comes with a native magic weapon, a little bit of resistance, decent hit points.
Native
Attack
magic
and
weapon is understating it. It comes with a 27 damage,
yeah,
absolute destroyer of everything, and I think it also curses on hit.
yeah, stats are a little bit low, but
10 damage, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I like to stack this thing with attack. It's my preferred method.
yep. And then you said you're not a huge fan of the mage lineup on the nation. Do you think it's
Yeah,
a
I
little
mean,
bit
do I
pricey?
want to pay 400 gold for an Earth Mage? Like, it's like, uh, my preferred nation. I get an Earth 2 for 125 gold, and it does everything that guy does. Um, and these guys, it's like fire. If this was a fire 2 or a water 2, that'd be great because that means you could cast Skill of Heroes and Quickness, which would make those sacreds amazing. But no, it's an Earth 2, and you already have Earth Mages to cast your Earth spells. The difference between Earth Mages and Fire and Water Mages, you only want a few Earth Mages because the spells that Earth Mages tend to cast, such as Strength of Giants and Legions of Steel and Weapons of Sharpness and stuff like that, these are all big AoE spells. They do have Iron Warriors as their small AoE spell, but it is not as good as stuff like Quickness and Strength of Skill of Heroes, both of which are small AoE and really can't be made larger, at least not until much later in the game, and are super powerful in early game wars. So that's if that mage, if there was a water 2 or a fire 2 instead of that earth 2, I would be much more happy with these mages. But
Yep. And I believe Dominion's Enhanced gives them some essentially teleportation through cave provinces, which gives them good mobility in the late game.
yes,
Any
yes,
other
yeah,
major
great point.
changes?
No, I mean they always have their statues and their golems, so they have their any construct made in Nagartha has more HP than anywhere else, and they have their golems, which are pretty nice. Big change from Dominions 4, obviously, where they can no longer regenerate. But I don't think any super huge changes from DE now.
And then I believe Holiday's also in the finals of Lucid's tournament, so that'll be interesting to see. Moving over to Ulm, piloted by Voltaire. Voltaire is a newer player to the community. I believe he started out around the same time I did in the new player games, but quite impressive. Has a very high win rate in my experience, and Ulm is one of his favorite nations. But may be considered one of the weaker. Obviously, MA is pretty well balanced, especially in DE, but Ulm is, a lot of people say it's a nation that's always going to be there, but never going to win. So almost and always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Any thoughts on MA Ulm?
There's a lot of contention on ML. I maintain that Ulm is a good nation. I think that you have incredible ability to stop sacred invasions from your guardians. You have incredibly gold efficient troops. You have some really good spells that deal with a number of different things. The one thing you do need as Ulm is you usually want a god who's going to help you scale into the late game, and for that this is the only nation. There might be one more, but this is largely the only nation which I will support the dormant rainbow god for site searching and crafting, which is kind of a very common joke because it is a god that lots of new players, including myself, decide to make, and it was almost always a bad idea. Except for on Ulm, which really needs the path diversity so they can like start breaking into other things. But Black Knight's good expansion. Axe Guy is good at repelling stuff. They've got crossbows, they've got flails, they've got pikes. You can kind of choose your weapon length depending on your opponent's weapon. And they have these guys, which are like a special thing they have. I believe there's a spell you can cast.
Any
It's
province with an
the
Iron Angel can
yeah, and those are
recruit
what
these.
Conj 7, right?
It's moved down, I believe, in DE. I
Yeah.
think it might be Conj 6.
Yeah. There's also a god you can take, get it right out of the gate. But certainly this does a lot to help you in the mid game. If you can paint or elemental resistances on these guys, you don't really need anything else because they'll just win the battle for you.
Yeah, coming with built-in Sword of Sharpness is quite an advantage.
They're not quite the great Sword of Sharpnesses they get in EA, but they're pretty good.
Yep. And then our final nation, piloted by Ibis, Man.
Now, man, I do think is a bad nation. Everyone loves the unicorns. I like the unicorns. Their sacreds are kind of a meme. I have tried many times to figure out a build that uses their sacreds in anything other than a joke. And their mages are just kind of limited to air and nature, which are not bad paths, but they're bad paths to be stuck in. Because if you have shock resist and poison resist, you mostly can ignore them.
Yeah, very low diversity in Man.
No thug capability, no ability to kill. You can't do any elemental damage. Air elementals are nice because they deal with a lot of stuff, but they are baitable. There's a lot of stuff you can do here. I don't like MA Man as a nation, and I know I referred to them once in my series as their troops as Indies wearing green pants. And I mostly maintain that outside the Tower Guard, who are pretty cool. They don't get their crossbows, I believe, until LA, right?
Correct. They have the longbow in
Yes.
MA.
That's true, but these guys don't even have shields. At least they have a sword of. Yeah, see, this is actually a really interesting unit here because this is like an archer with a sword. If this unit was on a nation with like point buffs, you could just point buff this unit and like let it go into melee with its short sword. Pretty cool. Like if you could quicken it. But you cannot do that in this on this nation. All you can do is shoot bugs and lightning. So many problems, unfortunately, in this game that are not solved by either bugs or lightning.
That being said, it is being piloted by Ibis. I believe
Yep.
Man is one of their favorite nations.
Certainly helps you tech up.
What's
Yeah,
your
those-
experience
those-
with Ibis in the community?
I don't think I've fought Ibis very often. I think I fought Ibis once when I subbed in as a dying nation. Certainly, by all accounts, he's quite good at the game. But I have to say I don't have a ton of personal experience. I think fighting him.
Well, I think that does it for our national recap. Next video, we'll be jumping into the first couple of turns of expansion and hope you stick with us.